Hi, I'm Margus Clark. This is a short introduction to service design and design thinking in preparation for the master classes that we'll have at the end of September in Kutaisi. There will be 2 groups, each participating for 2 days. The details of how that works are in the email. This video will give you a short overview of what the masterclass is about and a small task that you should try to complete before the event. Regarding the task, more is better than less is better than none, so do what you can. It'll make the masterclass more worthwhile.
So let's start. What creates vulnerability also creates digital vulnerability. We used to have remote controls for TVs that look like this, that changed the channel and changed the volume. Over time, we ended up with remote controls that look like this, that nobody knows how to use. So in order for my mom to use the TV, I hack the system, I make it simpler, and reduce the complexity of this digital device. Organizations, products and services always end up getting more complex over time. We add features, we think that people know how to use stuff, we think that it's good for them because it can do more, but what most people want is actually the original product, the simple solution. And that is the essence of the modern world. And this complexity is all around us. For people to be able to use new things, they should work the way they expect them to work. The principle is this, that you can use a new device based on your life experience, things that you already know. And if you can't do that, you have to stop and start thinking and read the manual and do all these things that most of the time we don't want to do, and that creates stress. And if you're not able to do that really well, then it makes you vulnerable one way or the other. So in this sense, digital just adds layers to this complexity of the modern world. So the question in your mind is, how does design thinking solve any of this? Design, after all, is what you see on the screen. For most people, it means making things pretty. But design is actually a process to make things understandable, usable, distinctive, and aesthetic. So in the case of these products, they should do give or take the same things. They squeeze juice. One of them is understandable and usable, but isn't very nice looking. The other one is really nice looking, but to be honest, not very usable. But if you get it right, then you can really change the world. When the iPhone came out, it was a revolution in reducing complexity of digital devices. The Swiss Army knife is a 150-year-old design that still works because it's robust and simple to use. Using design as a method, as a process, helps reduce complexity. The design process is based on a double diamond, that you first really research your target group, your users, the people you're trying to help, and understand what problem they're trying to solve for them, and then try to solve that problem the right way. In most cases, we just presume we know what the problem is and we start in the middle. And that's where actually the mistakes happen. The design method for everybody that comes into it as a first timer, as a novice, it always feels a little bit uncomfortable. There's an expression for this, it's called the fuzzy front end, because you are running around in circles trying to understand what you're trying to understand. You're trying to understand what problem you're trying to solve for someone else, and it's hard and uncomfortable in many cases. But if you do it this way, by the time you have defined the problem properly, solving that problem becomes really much, much easier, and when you're delivering your solution, most people are happy with it because it works the way they expect them to work. But if you do it the way we always do it, we think we know what the problem is, we build the solution really quickly, then we end up with reactions from users and we have to spend a lot of time and effort trying to fix it. So this masterclass will actually teach you one thing very thoroughly, and that is how to achieve empathy, to understand how it feels to be someone else. It is an in-depth process that allows you to understand context, the culture, and to develop ideas and rich descriptions to understand the details that really matter to users, so that it is not just information, but it's experience and understanding that you can base a solution on that really works for the users. During the masterclass, you also get a lot of new tools and methods, and you learn how to use them and how to abuse them and to make them work.
To make the masterclass as beneficial to you as possible, you will need to do some research first. And no, we're not talking about questionnaires and surveys, but about qualitative research. In short, I want you to go and have conversations with your target group about their challenges, needs, and dreams. So how do you do that? First of all, you need to determine who you need to talk to. Logically, this is a digitally vulnerable person in the area that you are interested in. However, since digital vulnerability is incidental, then don't focus on the technical and practical aspects of it. What you want to understand is how they live their life and how digital vulnerability actually manifests itself. To talk to people, you need to get in touch with them. For the sake of expedience, I suggest that you connect with friends of friends. Friends are too close. They will tend to agree with you even if you're not right. But friends of friends will be rather candid with you and answer your questions very honestly. My suggestion is that you let them describe a week or day in their life and when and where digital tools can become a challenge. The most important information is to understand the context of the digital vulnerability, not just the fact of it. What they are trying to get done and what problems are they encountering. And most importantly, how they are solving these problems today. Because they are. It is naive to think that they are not getting their problems solved, but it might not be solved very well or depend on the family's IT guy, which usually is a grandchild. Why is this important? Because general understanding and specific experiences are separate things. We know that people in general are digitally vulnerable and that this creates all kinds of problems. But general solutions will never solve specific problems. It is important to understand specifically the stories of people and the context in which problems occur, because this allows you to later solve very specific problems that also help to solve general problems. This is the paradox of specificity, which I'll also talk about in the masterclass. How many conversations should you have? At least 3 would be my suggestion. Consider also that one conversation can take 1 to 2 hours, and it is very important that after the conversation you have the time to reflect on what you heard and write reflections down, so that you have access to the notes during the masterclass. If you can, do the interviews together with a partner. That will dramatically improve the reflection process afterwards, as you discuss and ask each other what they said and what they actually meant. Ideally, you'll do the conversations in the person's home or business. In short, you go to them, they don't come to you. Seeing the context in which they live or work gives very valuable information that you cannot get from a telephone conversation or a meeting in a coffee shop or park. When having the conversation, let them talk and direct the conversation. What they focus on is what is important to them, and that is also the information that is most valuable. Create a script beforehand, of course, but remember that this is a conversation, not an interrogation. Ask open-ended questions where they have to explain themselves. Yes/no answers don't really give any valuable information. In other words, not do you have trouble with digital services, but what services do you have trouble with and can you show me what you do? There's really not that much more to it. In the immortal words of Nike, just do it. After the first conversation, you'll understand what works and what doesn't. After the second, you'll know what changes worked. After the third, you'll start to understand the problems of people properly. If you can manage more than 3 conversations, then even better. So, good luck. So, good luck with the interviews. So, good luck. So, good luck with the interviews and see you in Kutaisi. and see you in a couple of weeks in Kutaisi.